All right, welcome back. So those are the gentlemen who will be joining us this morning to give their perspective on the security situation, especially in the light of the submissions of the governors, as you just heard in that film, which we played just now. But let's get right to it. Colonel Yomi Dare, former Director, Army Legal Services, joins us here. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Chamberlain, and the rest of the crew. Thank you for having me on board.
We also do have Dr. Onai Komo. You know him, a security consultant and expert. Good morning, Dr. Komo. Good to see you again today.
Good morning, Chamberlain, and everyone in the studio. My Oga, Colonel Dare, and Colonel Stan Labo, I greet all of you.
Yes, Colonel Stan Labo as well. Yes, indeed. You've heard him. Good morning, and thank you for coming on as well. Oh, okay. There you go. All right. Let's start with you, Colonel Dari. Haven't heard the several responses concerning what is happening. We just heard from the governor of Ekiti State. We're not all naive. This is not just going to be about military action. He talks about the political will, interpreting that we need to take the bull by the horn. Give us your impression of all this analogy in terms of what is going on, what we need to do, and how we're approaching it. Are we doing the right things from your perspective?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain, and the rest of the crew there. Honestly, when I received this call last night that I'm going to be with you here today, I started wondering, even in the middle of the night. I said, what is it that I have to come here to say again that is new? Because to my mind, we've said virtually everything. And it appears as if nobody's listening. And just this morning when I met my colleague, Stan Lambo, at the reception, and the same thing we were saying. Why am I saying this? One has begun to sound like a broken, gramophone. I remember those old gramophones. Just rhetorics. You just come and talk and talk and talk. Well, I listened to the governor of Ekiti State. In fairness to him, I do share in his opinion that this battle is not about the military alone. It's something that every one of us, just like it's generally said, and we've said it a lot of times on this platform, that security is everybody's business. It's not just the military alone. It's not just the people that wear the uniform alone or paramilitary. It's for everybody. When you see something, you say something. Because we are getting to a stage now that, honestly, God forbid, you might just be sitting down in this studio one day and they come and overpower your armless security there, and they are right in here. Just, again, we saw what happened. A sitting governor, his life was, attempted. And of course, like in the Northwest, it has become almost a daily occurrence now, except the ones that are reported. And I want to tell you something. This kidnapping or banditry or whatever we want to call it, it happens almost every day. Some of them are not reported. A friend of mine called me up just on Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. They kidnapped the sister. And then the next thing, they are asking for 50 million. And this one, I've not even read it anywhere. And they've contacted the family. So I think it's very, very, very worrisome. Worrisome in the sense that we seem to be glossing over it. We all heard the governor, I think it was the governor of Zamfara State. He said that if he opens his mouth to mention the people who are behind the kidnapping, that people will be shocked. But as we speak, nothing has been heard about that. I expect that, all the law enforcement agents would have gone gone to him. After all, well, he enjoys immunity. So, Mr. Governor, please let us know those people. And then we are all aware also in this country that a cleric had audience with the so-called bandits. And to the extent that people are even calling for amnesty for these bandits. Honestly, I think we really need to examine ourselves thoroughly. I mean, why am I saying, sorry, Chimbali, I'm going somewhere. So it all boils down to lack of seriousness, lack of focus. And it's high time that we stem the tide of this. Otherwise, it's just going to be too bad for all of us. Thank you.
Labo, I don't know if you still talk to, I assume you do, your colleagues in service, and perhaps you might have gleaned a thing or two about their thinking, because several of the members of society just can't understand how security agencies are not able to deal with this beyond the usual phrase, seems like off-the-shelf phrase now, saying we are on top of this. So give us your impression. I mean, having been there, what could be the challenge that seems insurmountable on the part of security agencies, Colonel Stan Labo?
Thanks so much, Chamberlain. As a matter of fact, I would say, look, fine, we have a new set of leadership at the top of the military now, which a good number of us had cried out for, because we felt it was important and necessary that we effect some changes at the top. But we must be realistic by saying, look, the conditions still remain the same. The operational environment still remains the same. The deficits are still there. We need some little time to be able to see how all these are addressed so that we begin to see the changes we think we need to have in place. Do I have some level of confidence in the new individuals? I would say, of course, give them the benefit of the doubt. I already, like it is, we have seen a few moves here and there that would want to maybe give us some little hope, but let's see how this works out well. Whatever the case, I will still want to hinge on the issue of the political will, which His Excellency just talked about. If the political will is absent, I'm afraid, if the political will is absent, there is nothing we can do, because I think that is where the action itself really originates from. A situation where we have a government in place that gives me the impression that we cannot monitor, for instance, our airspace. Aircrafts could go into our airspace, go down in the forest, drop logistics, go back up, continue its movement without being detected. And we have a whole federal aviation arrangement on ground. I know the aviation industry is such a disciplined one, in which for any aircraft to take off, it has to be cleared. At times, even its route is availed, and so on. The point I'm trying to make here is that, look, those of them in government, be it at the federal and state level, should do an inner search of themselves and be able to tell us in this country who are those supporting what is ongoing. Because if you seek my opinion, I would tell you that government is being complicit at the federal level. Government is being complicit even at the state level. Bandits will move into schools. Nobody would see them. They will move kids out of schools. Nobody will see them until when these kids have been moved, all with smoothness, unhindered. Then we hear about the ransom issue. And after 1 or 2 days of funny pretense from politicians and those in government, 300 or 400 million, as the case may be, is released, and everybody goes home happy. The whole damn thing now has become a situation whereby some individuals are busy making money out of the situation on ground, including government officials. I keep emphasizing that. Including government officials. They are busy making money out of the whole thing. It has become an enterprise. And we are just there watching as ordinary citizens. We go back to our bedrooms as ordinary citizens, go on our knees and ask God to please take away the situation in which we find ourselves. While others go on their knees and say, thank you, God, for breakthrough, for open doors, for this new rebirth that is fetching us something. We should be a serious nation, for Christ's sake. Just like my senior colleague said, Colonel Dari, at times we wonder, look, when I come on air, I don't know what else to say that has not been said. We are speaking up to leadership because we elected the leaders. And power rests with the people. And we, the people, are saying, look, can you address the situation on ground? We are beginning to see that even you yourself, you are complicit. Sense of reasoning of those who elected has become blurred by all sorts of sentiments, be it ethnic, be it religious, be it tribal, and so on. Can they get all this cleared off so they can see properly and begin to address themselves to the realities which we feel on ground? There is a huge cutoff between the average or the ordinary Nigerian, the citizen on the street, with the government or those whom we elected. That gap should be bridged. And the onus rests on those in power to bridge that gap and see clearly and address our problems. Nigeria is sinking. This country is sinking every day into anarchy. We are beginning to look like a rudderless ship tossing on the high sea with no direction. We are beginning to look like a ship, a body of sheep in the grassland with no shepherd. Something has got to happen. We have to make sure it wakes up. There is no iota of governance going on right now in this country. Governance is in a state of coma. Under the last administration, under His Excellency President Jonathan, governance went to sleep. In this administration, governance is in a state of coma. We have to wake it up from coma into sleep and wake it up from sleep into governance.
Well, Dr. Kombu, you know, that comment by Dr. Fahimi certainly speaks volumes. It suggests that, I mean, certain people know certain things in some quarters that needs to be done, and then he talks about the political will. But from your perspective, I mean, you analyze and see these things. What is the missing link for you?
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. The missing link clearly is that I don't see the network analysis. I don't see the link analysis. From an intelligence analysis point of view, okay, let's take what the governor said. He said there is a coordination or connection between Boko Haramism in the Northeast, which is based on Salafi Wahhabism, which is based on religion and purity of the Islamic religion, and banditry in the Northwest, which is based on economic imperatives. I have described the banditry in the Northwest as economic jihad, as it were, because they are saying that they want to get money to take care of themselves. And a lot of those bandit elements, in my analysis, at least what my research has shown, and of course, certainly available from many other sources, is that some of those bandits are from Mujao or Mujiwa, Movement for the Unity of Jihad in West Africa. That is the Sahelian conflict. And these are people flowing from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, even up this way into Nigeria. And because of our extremely famous porous borders, they can come in here and attack us. They started in rural Zamfara. They started attacking artisanal miners, and nothing was done. So they became inspirational. When the Chinese came in, they got displaced from the artisanal mining attacks and moved into farming. And of course, when they found that they were comfortable, that's why we call them bandits. They are staying in ungoverned spaces. They are bands of killers, bands of gunmen staying in ungoverned spaces and attacking populations from there. Now, you don't see them go into Gusau, for example, and go and take over Gusau. They can't. They don't have that kind of firepower. They don't have that kind of organization. But they can attack rural communities. They can pick up. They can attack highway travelers. They can pick up people from the road. They can attack schools like they are doing now. They are coming closer to town. So the threat is really migrating. It started with the farmer header crisis, and then the bandits have also mixed into the action. Farmer header crisis, remember, is also an economic struggle. They say that they are struggling for space to graze their animals. Well, that's fine. That's their problem. It's their business. They should fund it or they should do something about it. That's my take on that. However, the bandits and then some of the militia they have called in the past to help tackle people who were opposed to them are now staying back and staying in the bushes. That's their domain. And attacking people from the bushes. So what I'm drawing here, Chamberlain, for you, is a map from the northeast of Nigeria, okay? You take a link, put a node there, pull it across to the northwest. Now that is the northwest bandits, and then bring that line straight down to the south, that's southwest. That is the, what do you call it now, the kidnapping crisis we have there. Now, you can move that line again, move it all the way over into North Central. That one gives you what we have there, the internecine farmer header clash that we have there. Then link the line back up to the Northeast again from the North Central. Of course, the South and Southeast, they are not spared. Southeast, to a large extent, very few kidnapping attacks. South is heavy because of the proximity between Ondo and Edo states. So we have a lot of those jump out of the bush, shoot at oncoming vehicle attacks, on roads in Edo State. And which is a problem I've been studying and been working on for some time. So what I'm saying is, so let me boil it down, what Mr. Fayemi has said. Certainly the linkage between the jihadists, that is the jihadists, the pure jihadists, the Salafi Wahhabis, and the economic jihadists in the northwest, northeast, northwest, that is inspirational. The jihadists in the northeast, they are inspiring the jihadists in the northwest, that is the economic jihadists in the northwest. They are giving them a spirit. They are saying, you can do this. Now that's unfortunate. It means our deterrence is not adequate, because the only way to, stop. Anyway, let me finish the analysis, then we'll talk about the preventatives later. So it's inspirational. That's that connection. Then there could also be aspirational elements. That is what you have. The leg from the northwest down to the southwest is aspirational, because they are aspiring for great things now. They are saying, let us link up, let us make many things happen. And then that same link going into the North Central, that's to the Benue Plateau area, Nasarawa now, and so on. Now, Nasarawa has some of the Northeast flowing back, Northeast, that's the pure Bababoko, flowing back into Nasarawa now in the form of Ansaru and Daru Islam, the one that Governor Sule has spoken about, and nobody's taking seriously right now. So what the problem with Mr. Fayemi's argument is that there is no operational content to all of this. As an intelligence analyst, I want to see evidence of operational content in all of this. That if not, then it's just perhaps is political speak. Let's put it like that. It's a
you
political hyperbole. So I think that's what
the thing about it is that, well, first of all, I mean, we're not sure he will be able to say certain things given his position and being a politician. So who knows how several other people might interpret it. But it's not the first time he's made reference to this kind of narrative. Remember when he visited Niger State Governor at the time where the governor was complaining that the center he wasn't getting support from the government at the top in terms of what needed to be done, security cover that needed to be provided in the state while students were kidnapped. And he said, look, whether anybody calls it any name or likes it or not, what he sees happening is these are elements, Boko Haram elements, who have moved down south and carrying out some of these things. He's spoken further, saying, look, these guys are getting funds. And it does appear as though they've carried out different kinds of attacks in different parts of the country. You call it economic jihad. They kidnap and then demand ransom. They attack farmers. They stop them from going to farm. They attack schools. They try to. So certain things appear to be tested in different parts of the country. So how then can't we see all of this? And Nasarawa governor, Benue governor, all of them seem to be saying, Mr. President, you need to do something.
Yeah, I agree with you. Certainly, now you are going into the countermeasures or problem solution phase. All I was doing before was just analyze that speech, or what I heard on TV, your TV this morning, just analyzing it. And I'm saying, listen, the evidence does not support that. Yes, he might have said it after the Kagara attack in Niger State. Look, we have long known that Baba Boko has gone afield. All you need to do, read my book, read my Boko Haram book. You understand what I'm saying? They have gone afield. They have gone everywhere, but they are not operational. There's a difference. You have two great military men with you there. They will explain to you what I'm saying. They are not operational yet. They don't have the material. They don't have the logistics. They don't have the, let's put it this way for short, capability. They don't have the capability to carry on the Boko business they are doing in Borno, Yobe, and Adama, northern parts of Adamawa State, in these other places. That's all I'm saying. They don't have that capability yet from a material, logistics, ordnance point of view, and perhaps even logistics, just having the vehicles and stuff. They will be easily slaughtered down here if they tried that. So, but what I'm saying is they are inspiring attacks elsewhere. That is the danger of this. So that's why this Boko cancer that has remained untreated for so long is now beginning to haunt us. They are inspiring people to do the same thing elsewhere, even foreigners. I mean, it's a shame, even foreigners. So that's the point I'm making. Yes, I'm sure that he has said that before, but they're inspiring people to do this. And now look at it's even doing more. They are now the jihadists, the economic jihadists are now aspiring and coming down south to attack targets in the south because it's easy to do so.
Well, let me ask you, Colonel Dare. We have very little time now to. Okay, I think the best thing to do right now is just to take a break because to unpack some of the things that we've heard Dr. Okomo say. Yes, I mean it's definitely a lot on its own, but we'll take that on when we return from this break. Just stay with us. For staying with us, gentlemen. Let me talk to the military officers here right now. There's a lot in you have heard in their analysis, and I don't think this is all lost on the intelligence community in Nigeria. So, Colonel Dare, if we are going to talk about the operational angles of all of the things that he's talked about, because you always tell us about the kinetic and the non-kinetic interventions. So let's talk about the kinetic for a while. He talked about capacity or a lack of it. What do you make of it?
Thank you very much, Ayo. I listened to Dr. Ona Ekomo, my very good friend. He did a very brilliant analysis, which he has always done, and most times he shares with me too. I do, to a very large extent, agree with him that we really need to bring into execution the capacity, the operational aspect of this whole thing. There's no doubt that if you had listened to the Ekiti State Governor, the Governor of Borno State, Professor Zulum, and of course, their Zamfara counterpart, and also that of Niger State, you discover that the way these gentlemen speak, they speak volumes, and there's no doubt that there's more to this thing that, let me borrow the words of Stan Lambo, there's some complicity here. So, if on the side of the government, because you cannot tell me that they don't know where these people are. So what is stopping us? Unleash the military, let them go after them. And I think that's where we talk about this political will now. Because this thing that we are playing with, I think it's good. If we are not careful, it's going to explode in our faces.
We've talked about that phrase, political will, for as far back as I can remember, and it will seem like the dictionary definition is never going to be sufficient because it depends on whose dictionary you're looking at. So could you unpack it for us? What does it mean, political will? And what's hindering anyone who is holding it from wielding it?
Now listen, Ayo. When it's convenient, we tag some banditry. When it's also convenient, we target kidnapping, herdsmen, cattle rustling. Gentlemen, as far as I'm concerned, there's no other name to call a spade than to call it its real name. All these acts are acts of terrorism. Like Fayemi said, there's a correlation. There's a correlation. It's all criminal acts. When we started off, we did some analysis, and there were certain laws on the punishment for terrorism. If you have taken someone's life, for crying out loud, I don't think you're entitled to yours too. Simple. But we find a situation whereby people are being, you call it restitution? I mean, what sort of reformation is that? Within a very short space of time. Yesterday, they were busy maiming and killing people in the name of Boko Haram. And then tomorrow, we say we are rehabilitating them. I mean, for crying out loud. Declare all these people terrorists. Declare them terrorists. And as far as I'm concerned, I've said this thing on this forum before, and I will not hesitate to say it again. And that is the political will. Declare a state of emergency. Declare a state of emergency. And with all due respect, I mean, I heard a couple of weeks back that the president gave an order that anybody found with SLR or rifle should be shot at sight. Excuse me, sir. Where are they even getting the weapons from? By the time that order is given, is it only when you see them carrying the guns? What about the people supplying them and working behind the scenes? And even by the time they hear such orders, they stop carrying them publicly. And then they unleash mayhem. You don't need to carry the weapons physically. Yes, please.
Jump in and ask you. I mean, we saw how the army led the initiative in Anambra when some soldiers were attacked, the police backing them up. Did they need anybody to tell them about any political will? If they were able to move in at that time, What is wrong now?
Chamberlain, the army will not move on its own. The army will have to move when orders are given. And that is the position.
Okay, it's quite interesting, the perspective, but let me take this to Colonel Stan Lambo, because he spoke about, complicity, and when we put this question of political will, because we've heard different terms, kinetic and non-kinetic. Now we're hearing military and political will, and you wonder just where do we go? So, Colonel Stan Lambo, as it stands right now, there are 39 students who are still in the kidnappers' den in Kaduna State. And I'd like us to bring this home, because, we could talk about it, but if we don't speak specifically to issues that we're facing right now, it might be hard for people to comprehend. So, they've been there for over 2 weeks now. By Thursday, it will be 3 weeks in kidnappers' den. So if we were to say that either the governor of Kaduna State or the federal government would show some political will to rescuing the students, what would it look like?
Thanks so much. I think it would be out of place for us to want to start talking about the issue of political will or no political will when it comes to the situation with the kids in Kaduna that have been abducted, or whatever terminologies we want to use. But just like my colleague said, as far as I'm concerned, whom terrorists have taken over. When you don't do your homework, you are compelled to negotiate. When you don't adhere to all the instructions or all the safe school protocols that we all accepted with Gordon Brown and his team and so on, as a nation, to put in place, we are compelled to negotiate. Because like I said previously in some other forum like this, when you don't put those things in place and your kids are taking over, there is no form of rescue mission you want to go on that will not result in, what's it called now? All sorts of terrible backlogs on yourself. For instance, you discover that you might either lose nearly half of the men or of the kids, if not 3/4 of them, in the course of your rescue mission. So in the case of the Kaduna thing, well, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it's either we want to allow those kids to pay the supreme price, or we go out there and negotiate and bring them out as usual, like all governments have been negotiating within the country. State governments and so on. I appreciate the position of the governor, El-Rufai. He has all along stood on the fact that there will be no negotiations. But then, in doing that, have you put in place all what should be put in place? How safe are our schools? Even as we are talking about that of Kaduna now, other state governors, what are they doing? Or are they deliberately waiting in case my own is taken and make my own 200 million too? This is what is happening in this country. Let's call it spade a spade. People in government are making money, period. Now, talking about the political will or whatever you said, we closed our borders for about 2 or 3 years. This was the same period when we had the greatest amount of influx of these so-called foreign Fulani herdsmen from Chad, from Mali, from Niger, and so on. Were our borders not shut? Who were those that are supposed to have monitored the borders to make sure we don't have unnecessary inflow of individuals who don't have the right papers? Is it not the federal government? Is the federal government giving me the impression that through its agencies at the borders, they never saw all these guys coming in, displaying their weapons openly? We know Fulani men to carry sticks behind their necks. These ones are coming in with weapons behind their necks, and no government is checking them. What is happening right now as we talk is that we are facing a manpower issue today in the army or in the military. Meanwhile, terrorists are busy beefing up their manpower, because with every passing day, more and more of these guys are coming in. It will get to a point where we shall be at an equilibrium in terms of manpower with them. And if this present attitude is sustained, they will surpass us manpower-wise. We have to wake up. I keep saying this. For us to wake up, we must look at our face, eyeball to eyeball, and tell ourselves some bitter truth. Leadership must be told the truth, that this country is sinking. Our borders were closed. How come these guys came in? Our airspace should be monitored. How come aircrafts were dropping logistics? So we cannot monitor airspace. We cannot monitor land space. Bandits have taken over. Are we sure we can monitor our water space? Pirates have not taken over. Where is your sovereignty as a nation? Where is our sovereignty as a nation? If it were in those days when nations lost territorial ambitions, I can assure you by now, Benin Republic would have been attempting to take over Lagos from Nigeria. Having watched and seen the sort of deficits you have exhibited, having watched and seen that you don't have what it takes, I am assuring you Benin Republic would have taken over Lagos by now. In those old good days when territorial ambitions were being lost by nations. Thank God for civilization. We must sit up. Leadership must sit up. Or we pray for 2023 to come on time, so that with the ballot paper, we can get the right leadership we need to see us through. We need a Murtala Mohammed at this time in this country. Through the ballot box, we need a Murtala Mohammed that will save this country. We are in trouble, terrible trouble. We mustn't hide it. We must talk to leadership. We elected them. Talk to them. The power rests with us.
Colonel,
we can't be scared of them.
Can you hear me?
The power rests with us.
Okay, now, on more than one occasion, you have had cause to talk to the press and give your own impressions of what you believe is going on in the country, and I'm sure it is from a source of information. What really stands out for me is a sinking hope. You don't seem to have a lot of confidence in the leadership. You've talked about how leadership was slipping, or governance, you say, was slipping in the Jonathan years, and that right now it is in a coma, and that it needs to be woken up to a sleep state, and then woken up to actually do what it is meant to do. I'm wondering, if you were to talk to the average Nigerian, because some people had, great hopes. Before now, there was a lot of conversation in the Senate over whether or not service chiefs should be changed. And eventually, we did see that service chiefs were changed, even though it took quite a while. A lot of people had renewed hopes as a result of that. Were their hopes misplaced? Or would you say that nothing really has changed from the information that you're getting from behind the scenes?
Well, but all the same, let me piece together the few things I heard from you, Maupe. Whether we are noticing any change going by the recent changes that have been effected at the top of the military echelon. I would say yes, but you see, these things take some time. These guys are not Jesus Christ. You don't expect them to wave a magic wand and then you see everything happening. It takes some time because a lot of planning, operational planning goes into it. And of course, like you expect, and which I want to believe you've seen, a good number of these guys have been going around trying to actually have a first-hand grip of the situation on ground so as to know how to address them, actually. So we need to give quite some reasonable time, and then before we begin to see or assess whatever lines of action they are taking and how it is impacting on the situation on ground. I think we've got to be fair to them and give them that timing. But it is a good omen that they were changed, and I think the individuals that were brought on board are seasoned officers. They are seasoned. We must give that to them. But let's see how this manifests itself practically on ground.
So does it mean that, you know, I don't know, because when you talk about governance waking up, when you talk about it being woken up from a state of coma, Kanadari did say something about, you know, orders have to be given. Is it that they have not been given the marching orders to deal with what we're now seeing, manifesting in kidnapping? Some say banditry is too mild a word to describe what is going on in the northwest of the country, trickling into the north central and even parts of the southwest. But is it that they haven't been given marching orders to deal with, you know, the existential threat which we see confronting the country?
Konolabo? Well, she is saying that when Konodari says that orders have got to be given, the army can't go, is it that these orders have not been given because we all heard the president say, shoot at sight on anyone who's bearing arms, as you alluded to? Konolabo, can you hear that? Oh. Okay, if we lost him, Konodari, I'm sure you could equally help a colleague out there. So you were the one who said the army can't move just like that. But in context of the statement credited to the president saying shoot at sight, isn't that a typology of an order or isn't that a direct order?
Well, I think I have to put things in perspective here. The question you asked was that, the happenings in the southeast, you know, where the military had to come in to clamp down on those insurgents, those militants that went against, you know, them. So, and I'm saying that, you know, that in other areas, in other parts of the country too, that specific orders have to be given to the military. And of course, you know the way the military operates. First, the military doesn't just come out. It's only when the police cannot handle the situation. That's when the military is called in, you know, to take over. So that is a standing procedure. So yeah, but it applies everywhere.
What about in the context of that statement saying shoot anyone you see bearing SLR or AK-47, shoot at sight?
Yes.
Isn't that an order?
Well, yes. Again, that's an order. But I went further to say that, as far as I'm concerned, in my own opinion, that I believe, with all due respect, that we should go beyond that. Okay? Because once someone hears that, oh, if I'm seen with an AK-47, I'll be shot at sight. Oh, I mean, well, the next thing to do is to avoid being sighted with an AK-47. So I'm saying that we should even break the bounds. We should break the limits. We should go after the source of supply of these weapons. Okay, because I mean I think it's a common knowledge, and I did say that the way these governors have spoken, specifically the governor of Niger State, the governor of Zamfara State, and then, of course, the chairman of the Governors Forum. I mean, there's a lot, which means somehow people know who these people are. People know who are behind these people, you know. I mean, we see them. Of course, again, we've heard about cases of people arrested outside the shores of this country. For example, in Dubai, you know, they were linked, you know, to sponsoring, to funding terrorist activities here in Nigeria. So what has happened to these people? What has happened? You just hear go, you don't hear come. We don't hear the results. So I think there's need for the government to follow through, you know, to follow through so that this will, you know, kind of give the citizens some psychological peace of mind that we have a government that is listening and that is actionable.
Okay, let me bring in Dr. Kum now, because it's been quite a while, you know, getting him to weigh in on this. And I recall you were trying to, you know, pull the thread between the different regions of the country and what's happening there, how it is possible for one to be inspiring or another one to be aspiring to be the other. And, you know, hearing the governor say that, you know, the funding from kidnapping in the Southwest is what is, you know, fueling some of the things we're seeing in the northern parts of the country, and you begin to wonder, how do they take money from, for example, an Oyo state all the way to a Katsina or Zamfara state, when you have to go through at least 4 states taking money, except that they're doing money transfer, which should be easy to trace anyway. But I think this all ties back to a common point that everyone has made today, which is some sort of complicity. How hard is it to give an order by the government for these issues to be dealt with decisively? You have done a lot of research in this area. Do you think the problem is with giving the order, what some people might call political will, or what exactly is it?
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate the question. Well, first of all, let's deal with terrorist financing and movement of terrorist cash around. These guys are terrorists, whether the government decides to label them or not. Many other jurisdictions have labeled them. So perhaps the Nigerian government is still looking for evidence that these guys are in fact terrorists before they will label them as terrorists. But be that as it may, you know, the thing here is these guys don't travel by road. So you can call your states, you can say Ogun State or your state, and then link them up. They don't travel by road. They have their pipelines of traveling, and which is normally through the foliage. That's why we present this as a security problem of foliage. That is the bush, as it were. They are not moving conventionally. They are not moving tanks along the road. They are not running transport business. They don't do money wires, certainly. They do a lot of cash business. And then, of course, I think Conestance Labo mentioned the issue of the planes that are coming in and going out. There's a lot of changing. So we need to check our BDC system, Bureau de Change system, what is happening there. Because there's a lot of exchange of these accumulated millions of naira ransom income and changed into dollars or into CFA and moved out because they need to buy weapons, they need to buy material, and they don't sell those things in nairas. So they need dollars or they need CFA, they need some kind of convertible currency. So what I'm trying to say is they have a very well perfected system. We've pursued some of these guys. We've gone through the bush at great risk, but you know, they are there and they move these things. They have points, change points. They have control points. They have their sub-economy where they take money to pay their fighters and things like that. These guys you see in the bush, these are just the little guys. These are the foot soldiers. I believe I've heard Colonel Stanlabo say this several times. These are the foot soldiers. The big guys are elsewhere. I think Colonel Dari was just talking about people who are in Dubai drinking tea and coffee and funding terrorism in Nigeria. So that's what's happening with the terrorist economy. There's actually a sub-economy of terrorism ongoing, playing out here in Nigeria. And that needs to be recognized and tackled by even the central bank. Central bank has a role to play because there's a lot of BDC action in here. And those people fall under their rubric of what is it called? Regulation. So
we could go on and on with
that. Let's go back to the issue.
Well, just a moment. We are running out of time, clearly, and I just wanted to chip in a particular question because at the end of it all, and I want to take this to Colonel Stanlabo, at the end of it all, it's the people that are the cannon fodders. At the end of it all, and while there are many reported security challenges, there are several unreported. Colonel Dare just talked about one kidnapping case that is unreported completely. And these are even the ones that we know. How about so many other criminal or issues that we don't know? So what well, clearly this is like the people are at the mercy of whatever now. So what can the people do? How can the people come in to ensure their own security and maybe in a way help government give them security?
Thanks so much to start with. One of the discussants just said, see something, say something. As a matter of fact, and like my colleagues have all said, security is everybody's business. We cannot leave it alone to the government. We cannot leave it alone to the agencies, that is the security agencies. We must do our bit as citizens. We must take ownership of our security and see that we actually play our own role. And that is where the see something, say something actually comes in to bear as much as possible. If a given situation where, for instance, we notice unnecessary movement, for sure, we must sound out to the nearest authorities. I want to believe by now, especially in the rural areas, there are well laid out chains of means of reporting. When there are issues, as an ordinary citizen, you know who to run to, be it your village head or whatever, and say, look at what we observe, look at what we observe. Even in the civilized, I don't want to say in the civilized world, it's not as if we are not civilized here. But I want to say that even in the West, we are all aware of how neighbors, report issues to authorities. We should be able to cultivate such habits here. We need it badly now. And we must ensure, I'm referring to the authorities now, that when reports come forth, we are able to react on good time. To react on good time, of course, would also call for the availability of the logistics that will enable them to react on good time.
Well, it will be, it's understandable. I mean, for your military background, command and control, reporting structure, well, properly, put out there. But out here, I mean, pardon me, Colonel, but I'm sure we'll get some response from people about the experience. Hopefully, we'll be able to improve from the loopholes that they have identified. But gentlemen, Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, Colonel Yomi Dare, Dr. Onai Homo, thank you all for your time and perspective this morning.
Gentlemen, it's been a great pleasure being with you.
All right, we're back in a moment. Join us again.